Welcome to the library. So basically what I wanted to do is Alex had interviewed me, and due to the drug stupor I was in, I kind of got hung up about talking about how low I was flying. But I wanted to clarify that I wasn't low the entire time. I actually flew out, saw the crowd of people, gained altitude to at least 200 to 300 feet. I would say minimum of 200. It's hard to tell from the video, but I did start high. My forward-facing GoPro, even with me knowing what's going on while I'm doing it, I know what I'm doing in the video. You can't tell that I'm actually getting one of the parachute guys out and doing it. At one point, you can see my hand flash in front of the camera, but for the most part, the camera's forward-facing, so we don't really get an entire view of what actually occurs. So I was at a higher altitude. While I was messing around getting the parachute guy out is when I came down to the height I was at when I decided to turn. The only thing that I saw in the video that can be considered a probability, and I use that term loosely because I still can't say 100% one way or the other if it was a factor in what happened. Obviously, most people would like to point a finger at something and be like, this is what caused my accident, this is what happened, this is how and why it happened. But with that being said, I am flying going east, and the powered parachute took off going west. And when I turned, when I got about 20 feet off the ground, I turned to the right and I felt myself drop, and I immediately gave myself throttle thinking I would be able to come out of that. But in the process of doing that, I kind of just banked more at the ground, and when I hit, I somersaulted. But clarifying that, like I said, I wanted to make sure everybody out there understood. I wasn't just flying at 20 feet, decided to get a parachute guy out. I was at several hundred feet. So in the video, like I said, even with me knowing what's going on, you can't see what I'm doing. But this is an example. This is what I would have been throwing that day. I just keep braces, rubber band on it that my daughter used to have braces, and honestly flying, I just do that, which snaps it off and then allows me to be able from there to unwrap it and get ready to pitch it. And then when we throw it, obviously inflates and it floats down. Unfortunately, that's not what occurred that day, and the accident did happen. I did bring some good friends here today to kind of cover kind of other perspectives of how it happened. Obviously, I remember a certain set of things happening. I remember losing the altitude, wondering what happened. I didn't lose consciousness when I hit the ground. I do remember tumbling a couple times, getting pissed off, throwing my helmet off, and was trying to stand up and climb out of my paramotor when these two come running up on me. So if you guys just want to introduce yourself around the table, and then we can kind of get into what your perspectives of how everything went down was.
I'm Ryan. Yes, I think I heard the smack and looked over and I saw your glider, coming down. Like, oh shit. I mean, oh poop. That's Jeremy. I said, that's Jeremy. I took off running. Dan was smart. He jumped in his truck. I was running. So it was probably, 5 minutes you were laying there before I got there?
I think you guys got there rather quickly, according to Dan.
I feel like it was quicker.
To me, it felt like I was laying there half an hour, to be honest with you. But when you're in an accident like that, adrenaline pumping, you don't know what's going on, you're in shock. Like, I also felt like I was screaming the entire time. And these guys were telling me that, I think you might have said something too, like, I didn't hear you screaming. No. But in my mind, like, I remember just screaming my head off, and I remember everybody being there, and I felt like I was screaming the whole time. But that might be part of my body being in shock that is replaying in my head when it wasn't actually what was going on.
Yeah, like we had talked about, I mean, earlier, previously in the video, it was actually probably right around one of the parts where you turn.
Introduce yourself real
My
quick.
name's Dan. I've been knowing Jeremy for a while from skydiving and from doing this. But previously in the video, you can actually see you flying over me. I was walking through the little campground area and doing the walk of shame because I actually ran out of gas. And way down on the other side of the airport. So I was actually walking back to my truck. And Jeremy had flown over the top of me and jokingly just kind of jumped up, close, trying to see if I could touch his foot. I didn't. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, he just flew and went about his business. I was walking to my truck, and by the time I got to my truck, and fired it up, and I looked out my windshield, and all of a sudden just saw everybody running, and I didn't know who it was. I just put it in drive and hauled ass out there, and Ryan was in the lead of the group, and I just slowed down enough, told him to hop on, and he just hopped on the railing, and left his wife out there. But no, we got out there first, and I saw that it was you, and there wasn't any screaming, nothing that I heard of. You're moaning and groaning a little bit like you knocked the wind out of yourself, like we talked about, and and after that, like I said, everybody showed up a few seconds later, and kind of tried to proceed from there, from trying to remove the paramotor because you were kind of entangled in that.
Yeah.
And I do work in the medical field and I have had some past training as a first responder and whatnot. So, just trying to help instruct everybody. Obviously, I knew you had previous neck injuries and fusions and whatnot, so I was more concerned about your neck initially. And, had somebody try to hold C-spine and hold your neck and try to keep you as still as possible. I think it was actually James, was one of the people out there. I remember when we were trying to get you out of the harness and keep you stable in a still position while we slid the paramotor out from underneath you. And then I think by that time, Brock had showed up shortly thereafter.
Right.
And ideally, it was just keeping your neck and your back and keeping
still.
you where you were and trying to, get you to your back, which we were close to anyways. And it kind of went from there, so.
And you could see Chris in the video too as I fly past, which I think he felt a little relief when he saw where he was at in that video.
I did, yep. Yeah, so I'm Chris. So from my perspective, I was doing. We had a lot of people there, by the way. Just so we know, there's the four of us. There was Alex,
there
Joel.
Was a dozen people there was flying.
There was probably close to 12 people flying that day.
Yeah.
It was really, really busy, and the LZ was starting to get kind of busy because it was like sunset basically when it happened. And the crazy thing is, with 12 people flying plus some bystanders, no one saw the accident.
Yeah,
Not
that's
a
crazy.
single person saw it, which was crazy. That's part of the reason why we don't know exactly what happened. But from my perspective, it was basically sunset. It was golden hour. Air was buttery smooth. I think I remember following him around like some of the trees in the field across the way and all that. And then coming back, we had these pool noodle things to pick up with your feet, foot drag, try and pick them up and drop them. So as the sun was going down, I was like, I got enough gas to do a couple of passes to try and pick up pool noodles. So I was like, I did one pass, I missed the pool noodle, came back around, did another pass, I picked up the pool noodle, came back around, dropped it, then came back around and landed. So I did like 3 or 4 circuits right near where the cars were. And from judging where your accident was, that was probably, every time I was turning base to final was like, where you crashed was like right underneath my base to final turn.
Right.
And, I landed, gathered my wing up, and I walked to my car, set my wing down, and Kane was there. So Kane and I were talking about something, I don't remember what, and it was probably for a minute or whatever. And then Kane says, who's that down out in the field out there? Is that Jeremy? I'm like, what do you mean someone's down out in the field? Yeah, someone crashed out in the field. Is that Jeremy? I'm like, what the heck? And I turned around and looked. And by then, you guys were already out there, and Joel was there, and Brock. I saw either Brock was running out there, Brock was already out there. And from my perspective, all I could think it was like, oh my God, that's like right underneath where my base to final turns. I just did like 3 of them in a row. It was like, did I happen to miss, not see him or do something and cut him off, or did I throw prop wash on them or whatever. The first thing, because with the timing of when I landed,
Right.
gathering up my wing, walking, talking to Kane for 3 minutes or so, and then Kane saying something out in the field, and everyone's already there. I think it was like, boy, that had to been happening right around the time when I was when I was landing. But like I said, thankfully, when you released the it was a while where I was like thinking, God, I might have caused that, and I didn't know, because I swear to God, I mean, I'm always so used to the look, lean, pull, thing, making sure no one's around. But hell, you screw up sometimes. So
And you and I talked about that in the hospital, and that was one thing that even before I watched the video, I wanted you to understand. Even if it was your prop wash, I'm the one who flew into it.
Yeah.
So before we figured out that it wasn't anything that you had to do with, even so, with me explaining what happened with the powered parachute taking off, like I've flown through prop wash before, and it can be pretty bumpy. But when you're talking about something that's older and bigger like that powered parachute is, like I said, I can't be like, yes, this is what caused it.
Right.
It possibly could have been something that caused it, but at the end of the day, I can't point my finger and say, yes, this is what happened. So it's still left in the fate of it, unfortunately, being an accident. What you can see in the GoPro, when I do right before the accident, you can see my hand and my brake line is completely free. You can see all my lines going up, and what you can see, there's no tangle, there's no wrap, there's no issues. All I can remember is that when I turned right, I lost lift. I thought throttle was going to get me out of it, and I just kind of barreled into the ground. So it's easy to be like, oh, I flew into the prop wash and that's how I lost my lift. But again, I can't say that it was 100% certainty. The benefit of the shitty situation is that we did have somebody in the healthcare profession there, with you being there, and then your wife also being there as well too.
Brock, I think, has some kind of medic training.
Brock is a firefighter and a paramedic.
So you getting there, it was funny. You guys essentially had to tackle me to the ground. When these guys first got out to me, it's funny, I remember yelling or like screaming the whole time, but I also remember like I was trying to stand up and get out of my paramotor.
Yeah.
And these guys pretty much tackled me to the ground, like stop moving. And then like you were saying, luckily too, like Joy being there and her being like barking orders at everybody to say, you hold this, you hold that. Like you're saying, James was making sure to really hold me down.
Yeah, there was a couple hands involved. Like
so
I said, it was.
It was nice that everybody got to me as quick as they did, because it seemed like a half an hour. You guys got there quickly. You were able to do an assessment. I asked you to move me a little bit, which you did not want to do. You propped my legs up for me because I thought maybe if my legs came up, it would make me feel better. And instantly was like, okay, that didn't work. Lay my legs back down. And then after that, there was no movement.
And that was a matter of inches.
The
tiniest little bit, because like I said,
as soon as I hit the ground, instantly I felt my legs go numb, and the immediate first thought I had was, fuck, I'm paralyzed.
Yeah.
That was the first thought I had as soon as I felt my legs go numb. But still, with that being said, very old school in the fact where I was like, if I can get up and walk this off, I'm good.
Right.
So I'm trying to stand up and walk it off. These guys held me down, which is good. Like I said, with your wife being there and kind of directing everybody. When the cop showed up on scene, he basically faded into the background, and he later came to the hospital the next day to talk to me, which I thought was really nice, that the cop wanted to make sure I was okay and just kind of check up on me and everything. So when he talked to me, he goes, it was nice when I showed up on scene. It was one of the few scenes I've showed up on where I didn't have to take control of it. He said, I just faded to the background. Everybody was doing something. It was productive. And then when the EMT showed up and took over, let me backtrack real quick. You got there, you were there, you were out there. But the fact that we had one healthcare professional show up on scene, we had your wife there who has a PhD, and we had Brock, who is also in the medical field. So I lucked out with it being a shitty situation, having those three people there, let alone everybody that was there to help out. When the EMTs showed up, they took over from these guys holding me and keeping me in place and not letting me move. And they end up, this is actually the jersey I was wearing that night. This is my favorite skydiving jersey. And I'm laying there, it's cool, you know, it's into summer, beginning of fall. And it's cool on the ground, it's still a little warm in the air, and I start feeling coolness on my stomach and my chest. And immediately I got mad at the EMT. I said, "What are you doing? Are you cutting my jersey?" And he said, "Yes, we have to." So I started yelling at him, telling him, "No, just let me take it off." I didn't want him cutting into my favorite skydiving
Priorities,
jersey.
right?
Priorities, right? I can give a fuck that I can't feel my legs right now, but I do not want you cutting into
That's
my
right.
jersey. So I told all these guys, like, if I would have known that, I would have had him taking the jersey off me before the EMT got there, because this is a one-off jersey. I ended up winning this off of the Drop Zone website, and this is not something you can buy again. Or buy at all. So the fact that they ended up doing this, but was it you or your wife that ended up snagging it?
Joy got it.
So Joy, his wife, ended up snagging it, and one of my good friends, she ended up stitching it back together for me. So it's a Frankenstein jersey. I still have it. I still got the pizza laser kitty and priorities.
Back's still good, right?
Yeah, the back is good. That didn't cut into the back. But the worst part is because the way this material is, when they're cutting with the scissors, it's bunching up, so it's not like it was a straight line. So, the cool part about me ending up where I ended up is on the way finding out that I was going to Henry Ford. I was thinking, oh great, they don't exactly have the greatest reputation, at least out east, the east side of the state. So I was a little worried about going there. By happenstance, again, just like the three people who were on site, they have medical training, right? They ended up having one of the most sought after neurosurgeons in the country just happened to be at the hospital to do my surgery. So one of the nurses, I was in emergency surgery, so I went into ICU when I first got there, and I was supposed to be in emergency surgery. Somebody came in after me, and they were worse off than I was, so I got bumped, which, of course, I don't care as long as, you know, whoever gets taken care of in more dire gets taken care of first. So in the interim of waiting, one of the nurses said, "Where'd you transfer from?" And I go, "What do you mean transfer?" She go, "Where'd you come from?" I said, "Well, I had the accident in Napoleon. They just brought me here to Jackson." She goes, "Oh, you didn't transfer from another hospital?" I said, "No, why?" She goes, "Because this is one of the most sought after neurosurgeons. Everybody transfers to whatever hospital he's at in order for him to have the neurosurgery done." So again, I just, luck as it may be, you know, again, out of a shitty situation, you know, there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. The fact that the most sought after neurosurgeon just happened to be there and happened to perform my surgery for me, and was able to do as much as he did, and then put me in a hopeful state of knowing that, you know, I should be able to gain 100% mobility back again. You know, be able to get out there with you guys again, get up in the sky again. But I know that some of the issues we had at the hospital, when I first got taken into the hospital, they had me listed as Maryland unknown for whatever reason. I don't know why, because I had my ID with me. That was the one thing you handed me when I got into the ambulance. He's like, "Here's your ID." So I had my ID on me, and they put me in the hospital. So the first couple of days of being in the hospital, a lot of the visitors that were coming to see me that weren't immediate family were getting turned away at the door because they didn't have me in the system. They were saying, "We're here to see, you know, Jeremy," and they're like, "We don't have a Jeremy in the system. What are you talking about?" And come to find out, I was registered as Maryland unknown, and my birthday was 1892 or something like that. So, but I did want to thank you guys for being there, because it's, you know, this is a sport where sometimes people go out and fly by themselves.
Yep.
And I'm glad that we have a good core group of guys that like to fly with each other and go out and do this kind of thing, because I've flown by myself many a times.
too.
And had I done this by myself, I would have been laying out there for a while. My cell phone, I don't think I actually normally have my cell phone in my pocket, in my paramotor pocket. But I don't think I had it on me when I crashed, so luckily we were at where we were
I
at.
don't think you did your phone in or while we were in the Jeep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The other thing too is a couple people asked questions. I was flying an Air Conception 200, which is more than enough for my size. And I was flying a Luna 2, 23 meter, which is a Bruce Goldsmith design BGD canopy, which can be considered like a B or a C wing. It's something that was new to me that season, but I had gotten fairly comfortable with it fairly quick and thought I had a pretty good handle on it, until I didn't. With that being said, though, the thank yous don't stop with you guys. I want to thank all the family members and friends who came up. The best part about me being in the situation I was is that the entire month, so the 2 weeks that I was in the hospital and the 2.5 weeks that I was in the rehab facility, so out of that entire month, there was only 2 days where I didn't have anybody come visit me, which I'm not complaining about. It's the fact that I had somebody come see me every day, from friends and family to people I haven't seen in a while, people that came out of the woodwork and had seen or heard about the accident came to visit me. So it was really nice. The amount of people that donated to not just the GoFundMe, but to me directly. There's a lot of people who either don't trust GoPro or don't trust electronic payments. So I was having people send me checks directly, and food. The amount of people that cooked food for my family while I was in the hospital, that was a huge benefit. For my wife not to have to worry about working all day and then feeding the kids and then coming to see me in the hospital, knowing that we had weeks of meals prepared for us. So I want to say thank you to everybody that made food. The amount of people that helped with random stuff like this. One of my buddies, him and his wife belong to a church.
Meal train.
Yeah, there you go. A meal train. So every day, thank you. A meal train. So every day of the week, a different family brought over a fresh made dinner for us to eat. So it's very humbling when somebody who never asked for help, because I don't like asking for help. It's very humbling when you're put in a position where you have to rely on help from everybody. It's not just about you at that point anymore. It's about your family, it's about your kids, it's about the people in your circle. And the fact that everybody pulled together really showed me a lot of different love from a lot of different people, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody along the way that helped keep me humble. Because it's crazy to go from like me not wanting help from anybody to like projectile vomiting and like crapping myself in the hospital, and me being like, I got it, I'll clean it up, like trying to clean my own mess, and the nurses are like, lay down in the bed, you shouldn't be moving, like, that's the kind of person I am though. Like, I don't want somebody cleaning up my mess. So it was very hard for me. I don't know if Alex even knew this or not. I didn't actually want to do the GoFundMe at first.
Yeah.
He did know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he told me, him and I were talking about.
Yeah. I was like, no, with it being the kind of situation it was, I don't want somebody cleaning up my mess. So I said no. My wife had said something to me, and then I told her no, and then my mom talked to my wife and was like, no, this is something that somebody wants to do for you guys. You should let them do it. So it was hard for me to let go of the reins on my entire life, essentially, and let other people do stuff for me. And I'm grateful for all of you and for everybody who helped out along the way. From the littlest thing to coming over and taking care of the dogs, to making sure my kids are getting to school, to coming and visiting me. Like, it's pretty unique that I can go that long and only have 2 days where I really didn't have anybody come visit me. Those first couple weeks were probably the worst because of the amount of drugs I was on, which is why I was having you guys take selfies with me when you came up there, because I knew I wasn't going to remember everything. And that was the worst part, is like when you're like, essentially I was in a drug-induced coma for 2 days because of the type of injury I had, and then the amount of drugs that were in my system after that. Like, I would wake up and it's like, oh, hey, you guys came to visit me, what's going on? And then I would be like, hey, don't take offense if I pass out in the middle of us talking. I'm on a lot, and then I pass out, right? And then I wake up and you guys are gone. It's, hey, what's going on? When did you get here? Like, different people in the room or nobody at all. So it's weird to wake up and it's like people be there, or people that were there are not there anymore, or nobody's in the room at all. There's a lot of just weird things when you're in that kind of mental space. But I came out stronger on the other end, which, again, I have a lot to thank you guys for with that. Being stuck in your head after an accident like that, for those first 2 weeks, I was really wrapped in my own head of what did I do? What did I fuck up? Was there a malfunction? What happened? Just going over and over and over all day long in my own head. And finally, I think it might have been you, said, hey, it happened. Are you ever going to get the answers you're looking for? Are you going to, even if that video shows everything, is it going to show you what you want to see? Like, it happened. Can you change it? Let's move forward from there. And that's when it clicked back on in my brain and I turned back into the sarcastic asshole that I always am. And honestly, like, it's frustrating because I'm not a patient person, and that's the hardest part about this kind of injury, is patience.
Yeah.
It's about letting everything wake back up. So, is there anything? I know you had a question at one point.
No, I think it was just the ongoing thing, just like everybody else, anybody that's been watching your story and whatnot and being there. I mean, you know, what you've seen of the video and what we've been fortunate enough, that's the wrong word, but just being able to see ourselves and everything. We all want to know that, like you said, definitive answer. How did this happen? Why did it happen? Was it preventable? You know, stuff like that. And I think that's kind of the ongoing thing. But like you said, given them where your GoPro is mounted at, and, you know, keeping your head straight ahead, so looking down at what you were doing, you know, whether or not we had visuals of your toggles, and but it's the, you know, just that ongoing, could you have done anything to prevent it, and whether or not it's worth looking back at it now and it's just going to be, damn, I screwed up, or could I have changed that? Right. What can you do? It does, like, whoever said that, and I will agree, it doesn't matter. You can't do anything to change it now, and it may even sting worse. Yeah. You know, just knowing. So some things are just left better off, you know, just let it be. And, you know, like you said, keep moving forward and worry about getting better and getting your ass back up in the air. Yeah.
That's
exactly what you wish.
Yeah. But if you're not laughing, you're crying, man. And in a situation like this, it's, like I said, it's easy to want to look at something and point a finger and me be like, this is what caused it. But even to this day, there's no answer there. So what's the point in dwelling on it? I got a good support structure, good support system around me. I got enough of you guys that have been there steps along the way, come and get me out of my house arrest, being at home and, you know, going out for lunch or hanging out or whatever the case may be. So I think at the end of the day, like, it doesn't necessarily matter how it happened, but where do I go from here, right? And as long as I have enough people that care about me and I care about the same way, I'm always going to be able to move onward and upward. So, and that's the only way you can look at it, right? It's honestly, like, I feel super blessed. I could have fucking died that day, you know what I mean? And the fact that I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I've always thought myself as pretty fucking tough, but, like, I'll tell you what, man, when something like that happens to you, when I first crashed to the ground and I was asking you guys about screaming, I did not know what that sound was at first. I literally heard it and was trying to listen for what is that sound? And when I stopped, I realized it was me screaming in pain. That was the noise I heard. I'd never heard myself make that kind of noise before. So to know that like that kind of agony happened and with it, I don't want to say only being a shattered spine, because obviously that's pretty serious, but the fact that I'm alive with a shattered spine versus not,
Yeah.
I will say at the end of the day, I mean, I'm 100% grateful
Yeah.
for the way things worked out. So
Yeah.
with
walking.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, when they picked you up to put you in the
Yeah,
ambulance.
there was a loud scream.
I was on the.
I was
over
at
by
my
the
car. I
road.
was actually loading up your stuff.
Yeah.
And then I
was,
heard that, and I'm like, going, "Oh man, it was brutal. I mean, it was blood curdling."
oh man. So I did yell when they lifted me
Yes.
up. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like a half a mile away.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
man.
long. Yeah, so
And
I was over
kind
loading
of
up your trailer.
Yeah, the sheet thing that I was talking to the police officer at the time, watching
Yeah.
you know the EMTs and paramedics do the thing, and I'm obviously that's not me, not my job, but I was watching what they're doing. I was like, I don't know, you know, I'm old school, used to the spine board, and they had a
Yeah.
sheet system, and I was like, they hopefully know best, you know, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that was and again the cool thing is I don't want to say cool thing, I don't want to make it sound like the situation was cool, but with what happened to me, you guys all went into motion. You started doing something, you started doing something, you started doing something. My vehicle, there was no question about it, my vehicle, you guys packed all my equipment up into my trailer. One of my other buddies, James, took vehicle to his house and was like, hey, I'll get it over back to his house tomorrow if I can. If not, maybe the next day, whatever. But the fact that, like, there was no question about who was doing what. Like, you guys jumped into action without even being asked. And that's what a good friend is. That's what a good friend does. There's no questions. It was just boom. There was immediate movement. People started doing stuff. Things got packed up. Gear got put away. Vehicle got taken to somebody's house. Like, it's amazing that all that was done with almost strategic precision, you know, like, but everybody just jumped to and everybody did something. And so
it's like Sky Family, like skydiving, which is where me and you started, but unfortunately being in that, you know, sport and, you know, paramotoring, I mean, the short time I've been in both, you know, we've seen our fair share of accidents and you know, I'm, like I said, being in the industry and field that we are and having the medical professionals that were there certainly helped with the orchestration of everything, but it's a Sky Family, whether it be skydiving or paramotoring, and I think that's, like you said, it says a lot, but it's also a good thing. Everybody's there to help.
You said your one buddy came and prayed over you that one day.
Oh,
So
yeah.
This is pretty impactful.
yeah, I'll touch on that real quick. Florian, actually another student that I helped train, he's Romanian, and he brought his cousin over to my house. Him and his cousin came over to my house. It was shortly after I was released from the rehab facility. And Florian's cousin does not speak any English whatsoever. And he's also a priest, so he asked if he could pray over me, which I am not a religious person by any means, but I will never deter anybody from utilizing what they believe in. If they want to pray, if they're spiritual, if they're agnostic, if they're not whatsoever. But he asked if he could pray over me, so I said, sure, go ahead. And it was very hands-on and very vocal. The only thing I could probably relate it to is maybe some of the southern churches with how they get very hands-on with their healing. But he would start touching me in different points. And the best part about the entire situation is I can feel his energy coming off of him. So when he touched me, I could feel the warmth and the love coming out of him. And when he touched my legs, I could feel that in my legs, my knees, my feet. He rubbed my feet, and the sensation that I got from this was very powerful. And it's one of those things that can make you curious as to, is it because he's religious? Is it maybe because he's some kind of healer? Is it because he believes in both? But I could tell you that him being there, the experience of having two people praying over me in Romanian, and being very vibrant and boisterous and very hands-on with it, it was definitely an experience, and I felt better from it, and I feel like something good came out of it, whether it's psychosomatic or not. I felt it. So I appreciate you reminding me of that and bringing
Maybe
that
some
up.
holy healing.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you. And I want to thank everybody out there. Like I said, everybody who donated to us, everybody who made food, watched the dogs, the kids, came over and mowed my lawn. Like, the amount of support that my family received, I would not be able to describe in words how thankful that my entire family is. This has been a trying circumstance for all of us, and coming out humble on the other end of it is the only way I can see stepping out of this situation. And I appreciate everybody who's been there with me along the way and being part of my journey. So thank you.